Yeah, so again, uptrends, we already know this. So
Yeah.
actually again, this is another important thing. When it comes into uptrends and downtrends and consolidation, we tend to say that out of consolidation, the market's always going to move in the same direction, right? That's another concept. So really, a lot of times what we'll see is this. We'll see higher highs and higher lows, all right? And then what we'll see commonly is through these big moves, right? Through these pushes, through these resistance points, a lot of times what we'll see is some consolidation after that move. Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, that's when we get that sideways movement. That's when I like to say the market is building up momentum. Yeah, it's building up direction. They're trying to decide which direction. Commonly, you're going to say that it's going to go and continue to the same way that the trend just came from, right? So that's again why it's important to determine which direction is in, because more times than not, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And then we'll continue into this uptrend. And then we might push up for a little bit, right? And then we might consolidate again. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
at some point, the market is going to fall, right? So at some point, you might take the buy and the market pushes down and it actually breaks the bottom, right? At this point, we only consider it to be a downtrend when we break that previous low and start to create structure, right? As soon as we see that happen, boom, that's a low, that's a lower high than this, right? Especially if
Mhm.
we see it happen again. Okay, now we know that it's reversed. The trend has reversed at this point. And now we'll start to look for sells, right? So at that point, if we see that happening, and we see the market go back into this consolidation, we're not going to buy the consolidation anymore because we know that the trend has now reversed. So now we'll look for some sell setups. And again, that's when it creates lower lows and lower highs. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
this is kind of what it's going to end up looking like is this, because again, the market's always going to want to make up for these moves. Yeah, it always has to double back. So it's going to push up, then it's going to push down. Again, even when you get those push downs, it's going to eventually push up. So at some point, this is not going to work. You know what I mean? But more times than not, if it's coming out of this, you want to stick with this and you want to stick with that, and you're going to want to ride that trend all the way up. And then as soon as you see signs, it's not a bad thing, right? We're going to lose trades. That's the one thing that you have to start to accept as a beginner trader and really understand you're going to lose trades. There's not 100% right? So as soon as you lose that trade, it doesn't matter because you just have to take a step back and start to see, is it changing, right? At that point, then you can make a decision. Or it might just have pulled back lower, right? And maybe the market doesn't create higher highs and higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs, right? It just kind of goes here and we can see, okay, that was a big push. And then maybe it continues up, right? And we start to see, okay, it just made a really big pullback, right? But it's still continuing to make higher highs and higher lows after that, right? Then we continue to trade with the trend, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's really what you have to think about it. So those are trends. I mean, those are the different market phases. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now break and retest comes within that market structure. Again, that's market structure. This is price action. When the market goes up, we like to say it hits support or resistance. Sorry. When we hit resistance, we come down, and what we say we hit down here is support, right? At this point, when we break right here, this is what we're breaking, right? Is that resistance. And we'll pull out consolidation because it makes a little more sense when we see it hit a couple times, right? We hit the support. At this point, when we break this little area right here, right? That's breaking the area. What we commonly like to see in the market is a pullback and retest of that area on the top side. Remember, I said resistance can become support and support can become resistance. That's a break, a pullback, a retest of that area, and then we have a continuation, right? So that's actually what creates that. A break, a pullback, a retest, a continuation, right?
Okay.
That's what we're looking for. So again, a break and retest happens within just a trend, and it happens within consolidation. So again, in the trend, it's not as prominent because it's just a quick break, pull back, retest, continuation, break, pull back, retest, continuation, right? This is what we're looking for. Again, we're not always going to get these pullback and retests. And that's why when it comes to consolidation trading, and what I teach is breakout trading, is it doesn't always do that. And sometimes what we get out of consolidation is just the market makes that large move, because again, it's building up steam, right? And then it just breaks and it just makes a massive move and it never really comes back to that area. And then it kind of just starts to consolidate up here, right? And then it might break. And then as soon as you see that retest, for a lot of people, that's when they'll take the trade. So that's an idea. This is more aggressive if you take the trade as soon as it breaks and closes above the area. This is safer. If you see it break from that area, pull back, retest, and show signs that the market's going to continue up, that will happen, and that will be a little more safe than this. This will have a higher risk to reward sometimes. Because again, a lot of times the market doesn't always come back for these retests. So you can play aggressive if you have the right strategy, and that's what I teach. But this is a really good idea, and this is still part of what it is, right? If I'm in a trade on a breakout and it comes back for a retest, I'm not scared because it's against me. If I see that hit there, I just know I'm in a good trade, right? If it hits there for that retest, that's like a check mark for me. It's like, okay, is it going to stay above it at this point? Retest and I see it bounce up. I'm like, okay, this could be a really good trade at this point because it broke and retested and went off. Or sometimes it'll just fly and I don't even have to worry about it, right? And maybe it just goes up here and I can move my stops. Does that make sense? Break and retest? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I understand now for sure.
so again, when it comes to trends, a lot of times it's just a single break. So it's not, you're not gonna, it's harder to find these sometimes. And we have rules. You're gonna have to create rules always when it comes to trading. So we'll have some rules that we'll look at to determine if that is a break or if that is a pullback. Does that make sense so far? Can we hop onto the charts
Yeah.
and look at some live examples? Okay, so right now we're on the 4-hour chart, which is fine. So again, the idea is to figure out the direction of the market. So we can do bar replay and we can kind of play around, right? So again, if I'm looking at this structure right here, just at the top, when I see there's a top right here, the highest the market's been to in a little bit, right? Boom. You can kind of see that's just the top of the left. And then the top of the bottom, we like to say it has to at least be 2 candles, right? So this is 2 candles right here, and then it pulled back and then actually pulled lower to about here. Does that make sense? You can even see there's a floor right here. And if we even pull that over, what do we see right there, right? The market was moving up from here, right? Up, it pulled back. That's 2 candles, so we can consider that. We don't like to see just 1 candle. Let's see if we can find any situations where it's just 1 candle. Like over here, you see, it's just a blue candle and a black candle. My black candles are my bearish candles. We don't want to consider that a pullback. Even this right here, you see this one right here.
Yeah.
This one's just a really small black. That's, you know what I mean? We don't want to consider that. We want to skip through all this. We want to say this is the low point. We're skipping through that. We're skipping through that. Now this is 1 black candle, 2 black candles right here. So we'll consider that a pullback, right? That's why we have to make these rules, and these are just my rules. Some people like 3 candles. So again, it's up to you, and you'll decide what you want. For me, I've seen 2 candles is pretty good, so I'll consider that right there. Up here, you can see it pull back 2 candles, right? 2 candles, I'll consider that right there. We pulled up. That's definitely more than 2 candles. We pulled up. We pulled down. We pulled up. I'm skipping that. It's only 1 candle, right? I'm skipping that. It's only 1 candle. That's not a move I'm worried about, right? Over here, we got 2 candles. We can pull it back. We pushed up, right? That's more than 2 candles in this direction. Made a new high right there. Then we pulled back, right? More than 2 candles right there. Right here, we skipped that, right? That's only one candle. So we pushed all the way to that new high. So right now, what do you think the trend is?
It's an uptrend.
Yeah, right. And we're determining that because what are we making? We made a low. I mean, we made a low, we made a high, we made a higher low, right? We made a higher high, higher low, higher high. Over here, even though we broke these, right? We didn't break this. So at this point, I would consider this a consolidation, right?
Okay.
Because you see it, it hit up, it hit down. It's in between the high and the low. It's not really making anything, even at this point, right? It made a higher low right there, but it made a lower high, right? So it's kind of just moving sideways. At this point, we broke and created a higher high, right? That's obvious. And then over here, we made it a higher low. I would consider it off this low now, right? But I only know that after this. Yeah, once this is printed, now I can establish that's gone. Okay, so now my new high and my new low are right here. This is what I care about, right? Is it breaking this? Then I can consider it an uptrend. It breaks it, right? We create a higher high and then we create a higher low. We break up, we create a higher high, and then we don't create a, we create a higher low, but not really because we didn't create a higher high, right? So it's not until we create the higher high that we can establish that this is a higher low. Does that make sense? Again, all happens in the past. So right now I have a high and this is my low. Does that make sense? This could be my new low if I break and create a higher high. But I don't know if it breaks until it hits and starts to pull back. At that point, I can now establish that that's my lower low. Does that make sense? So it kind of takes some time to determine if it's a higher high and higher low, but that's how you kind of have to map out the market. So let's do this one more time because I want to continue on into this situation. So we got these higher highs, higher lows. We pull back. We're not really creating a higher high. So we pull up here, right? It doesn't take out the high. At this point, we can kind of establish that there's a zone right here that the market's not wanting to break, right? We pull back down. That's more than 2 candles, right? It's kind of just going down here. You could say right there, right? And then we pull down right there. Boom. We pull away and we pull back down, right? So at this point, I'm saying the market's in consolidation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's not going higher or lower. It's just stuck. And again, you can map these out. Again, when you're drawing them out, you want to draw it out with these lines. That'll help you see. Okay. From here on, we can play it forward and determine, is the trend going to continue in this uptrend or is it going to reverse? Again, something's going to happen out of this consolidation. If we push it forward, what happens? We pulled up, right? That's a new up. That's more than 2 candles. That's 1, 2. I'm going to use the black one. Sorry. That's more than 1, 2. And then over here, that's only 1. So we don't consider that. Up here, okay, we hit that same spot, resistance, right? We pull down. That's only 1 candle really, but this is 3 candles. So I might consider that. Boom. And then pull down. Okay, so at this point, we've determined that we just broke the floor. Do you see that? We broke the floor right here on this candle. Okay, so now let's see if it's gonna switch to that downtrend. We push out, we push out. That's 2 candles up, right? So now we can say that's a new high. That's a lower high, right? We're starting to pull down. So at this point, what I would do is consider this still in consolidation. You know what I mean? It's still moving sideways. I would just pull this down here. At this point, you could say that it's moving over here, right? We did create a lower low or lower high. So we can see that's going down, right? Let's continue to push it forward. That's a break. You could consider that a retest. Again, it's an area, right? Just a zone. So now at this point, where do you think the market's going, right? We pulled down.
Yeah.
We could skip all these. We could skip all these. Now we're not really into our pullback until there. There, you see it? Boom. That's clear that you've now been in a downtrend, right? Because you're looking right here and right here and right here and right here. Does that make sense?
So did that
So that's really right there. Look at that zone.